This is it, man. So this is the first one. This is kind of fun.
This is amazing. It's been weeks and weeks in the making, and it's just so hard to press the record button, and we're still obviously not prepared because we don't look like a real podcast production right now.
No.
We don't have all of the bells and whistles. But this is part of the journey. Is that sometimes you just have to make a start, and it's a bit of a public showcase of what it takes to get an amazing podcast up and running. You start from the basics, start from where you're at, click that record button, have a conversation, publish it, and rinse and repeat, and we'll optimize as we go.
Yeah, I agree. I like your plan. Nah, like it's talking to my girlfriend about this, but like, I've always been interested in doing something with content, especially like getting into conversations with people and I always thought seemed so cool with these shows where they can like get guests on and just kind of have these interesting conversations and um but I had this like weird thing about being some sort of fear of like the vulnerability of, I mean, it's normal, right? I'm sure everybody has it to some degree, but like putting yourself out there and like now you can have a video on YouTube and kind of feel like, well, who the hell wants to look at me? Like, why do they want to look at me? Why would I do this? But it's
Yeah,
like, I don't know. It's just a
it's
weird
the
thing.
it's the same with producing your first online courses as well. Just having a camera in your face, right?
Mhm,
Recording yourself on video. Whether you're reading off a teleprompter, whether you're just freestyling it,
mhm.
recording onto a camera, publishing that as a course, there's a lot of psychology involved. And I have slowly come to realize or appreciate that there's a big part of what will attract our audience is our personality, is our
Mhm,
quirks. Some people won't like what we do. They
mhm.
won't be interested in what we talk about or the style that we talk about it, or they just won't like our energy or whatever we get into, how much we cuss on the podcast or something
Right,
like that.
right.
And they'll go and find something that suits them. But
Mhm.
we find the tribe that vibes with us. And so it's just about being authentic, and there is an element of practice. I don't know if
Sure.
you've, I don't know if you're familiar with a class, a public speaking club called Toastmasters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I joined them when I was about 18, and I went through this first 10 public speech practice thing. And the difference that every single time made for me was like geometric. The
Mm.
first time, and I saw the video recording of me, I was pacing up and down the fullness of the stage. I
Mhm.
had no idea that I was doing that, but obviously like super nervous at being in front of a live audience and speaking. And by the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the experience was just so incredibly different. So now we suddenly got a podcast on communication. We were going to talk about marketing, I think, but now we're talking about communication.
Communication. Well, also too, like you feel like, um, you have to have a reason, right? Like, I mean, I suppose your reason could just be, I just want to make a podcast and that's fine, but I'm not sure, how far somebody might want to watch you sort of gaff for a while and point and laugh, but they would probably get bored. Like, what's your point? I just want to have a podcast. What are you going to talk about? I don't know, nothing, right? That's not going to get you anywhere. But I think for a while for me, it's been about, you know, yeah, there's people I listen to and I think they're great, but I don't feel like in our industry in particular, right? Like, you and I work together in various projects and it's in the sort of web3 and blockchain and the technology and artificial intelligence and all this sort of bleeding edge tech. And it's an odd industry where the core values of the technologies are decentralization and transparency and, this sort of like new, it's supposed to be about this sort of new way of interacting and collaboration rather than competition and DAOs and people are so full of shit. Like it's such a place of just oftentimes there's so much, right? We hear about all the scams and all that stuff, but more than that, like this virtue signaling, like And I feel like I wonder what that looks like to somebody who's checking us out, right? Like people who are like wondering about Web3 and they kind of wander their way into, a community and then they see this like this kind of infighting and this, yeah, I'm in it for the tech, but really I'm just here to make money. And I don't know, like just the giving real viewpoints and trying to give like accurate insight because I love that, right? Like there's this emergence of shows, right? It's a sort of extension of reality TV that's become like the insider look, like on Netflix. And you see like the tennis tour and Formula One, like they're doing everything. And you would think like, whatever, I don't even care if I like the sport. Like I'd never watched Formula One before, and I've actually come to appreciate it because of the show. But like it's just cool to see the inside of something, And again, obviously they're aware the cameras are on, and I'm sure there's plenty of off-camera stuff that you don't see that they make sure that you don't see. But in general, it's pretty, I mean, race day, it's in your face there. They don't have any room to kind of squirm, and it's just neat. It's like I like to see these windows into other worlds.
Yeah, I'll give you a real case scenario for those of our viewers who are in the Web3 cryptocurrency type space. You probably heard of BitBoy, the brand, and there's BitBoy Ben, and these guys have been doing a podcast for a long time. And I just in the past couple of weeks, I watched a couple of the episodes, and they're so chummy. There were like three of them, and they change camera angle. It's a really, really well published, produced podcast. And only in the past couple of days, Bitcoin Ben has been axed from the show completely because of inside
Whatever.
fighting and debates and whatever. And so you just realize that even the most lively show, there can be behind the scenes, you just don't know what it is. So for me, it's about authenticity. And it's hard. It's hard to take away those masks, to
Hmm.
be genuinely relevant for a message that we want to get across, and to give ourselves the space and freedom to have our personality quirks and our uniqueness, and finding that balance. We want to
Hmm.
be relevant. We don't want to bore the pants off of people. And like you and
Hmm.
I, we can have personal conversations on 1,000 different subjects. Is that going to nurture a relevant podcast audience that we want to reach? We got to find that balance somehow.
Yeah. I mean, either that or be really, really good looking, I guess.
That's
And
it.
probably
Or just get a sex change. Just.
something gimmicks. Yeah. Like, well, that's the thing, right? Like it's amazing, like the sort of the pursuit of fame and the willing and what so many people are willing to do, and that's obviously one of the options, right? Like we could come up with something absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't know, I'm gonna slowly cut off pieces of my skin and make a hat like that.
Well, well, how's this for ridiculous, right?
Like,
We've got video filters that we can play with.
actually, I think you should start a gang, the one-eyed
How,
gang.
well, there you go. One-eyed. There you go. I do like. So I think eventually we've got to bring this
I'm gonna
podcast
raise
into
my
the.
hand and say, "What the fuck are you doing?"
We've got to get the podcast into the metaverse soon enough. So there's my goggles ready to go as well. So
Okay, I'm cheering for the metaverse. I want to live in the metaverse. I don't think that's so bad. People are always like, you see like a movie like Wally. I don't know. It's a kind of a kids movie. I have kids and I watched it years ago, and I think a lot of people have seen it. And it's poignant. It's a really neat like Disney Pixar like portrayal of, what it could be like in a world where virtual reality is so real. Everybody just, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but everybody's in like floating chairs on a spaceship, kind of like hovering like over the earth because the earth is such a shit show and a desolate planet down below. And they drink these like smoothies, I guess, to the meant to be for they don't leave, and they're all like really giant, overweight, and then these like hovering chairs. They look like they're having a blast. I mean, I don't know, they're watching like endless television or having orgasms or whatever they're doing, but does it matter? I mean, if you were in the metaverse and it felt as real as this does, it was totally tapped into your nervous system and your brain and every element of your body, wouldn't that be better?
Yeah, the only concern I've got there is that if you are physically sedentary, then you're gonna get physically sick fairly quickly. So
Sure,
as
but they
long
have ways
as
to
long as
deal with
you're
that.
yeah, as long as you're circulating your blood and your gland nodes and like muscle, uh, you know, I don't know what you call them, the body suits, as long as they're stimulating what you need for health, and you got to eat, obviously. So
Yeah, you
there's
can
got there's,
IV that shit though. Come on, you just IV in the nutrients. Like, I mean, well, we're
um,
we're way in the future here, right? So
Well,
assuming,
well, are we? Are we? This is part of it as well. Is bringing to thinking about our audience. We're going to shoot the shit quite a bit, as the folks can probably tell already. We're 10 minutes in, and what have we? What of substance have we really touched on? But like marketing, like consumerism, commercialization,
mhm,
where your audiences are. A lot of what we talk about is relevant to startup traction, to product development, the trends for the future, and how we're going to build communities, build engagement, and be relevant, not just us with our podcast, but our viewers with their audience, with what they're trying to do. And hey, the metaverse is here. Like it was probably way off in the future, as you and I were talking about the other day, with Meta, with the goggles that people are tied after an hour of use or they got headaches.
mhm.
Now with Apple Vision Pro coming out in the beginning of the coming year, with all of the AI stuff, innovation that's happening, the world is changing right now.
Mhm.
AI, Chat GPT, the amount of content we can produce and the depth of research we can do, SEO going like being the first paradigm. I got my start in marketing in SEO, where before the days of Google, I was doing SEO on Alta Vista and Yahoo search
I know you were.
when
There's
you
no
could
way that's
really
real.
when
That's
you could
awesome.
when you could really game Yahoo because they had a very simplistic algorithm.
Nice. Is that
The
when you just
dot
had to
yeah,
put, like, porn in the background the whole
but
time and
it
make
it
it
was
white
not
or
well.
whatever?
It was backlinks, so you could literally publish a bunch of backlinks to any website
Mm,
and get it ranked for that search term,
wow.
right? So you could bomb a website, like any website you want, pick the keyword you want it to be ranked for, and it would be number one in Yahoo search engine because you backlinked the hell
Nice.
out of it.
The good old
Uh, and
days.
then and then Google came along, and so the point is, I got my start in SEO and SEO copywriting, research, linking structures, different things. Um, and now today, Google is introducing an AI query engine
Mhm.
that they might be adding to the search page of Google. And that's an entirely different approach to being able to bring back search results, right? So the world is fundamentally changing. Every channel of marketing is changing. The customer perception experience is changing. Soon we're going to be in the metaverse, at least part of the time, a lot of us. This is the dynamic world that we want to try and explore on this podcast for our own benefit, because I get inspiration and information from you. Hopefully,
Mhm.
I share some stuff and you benefit from that. And we're going to open this up to a wider community and help folks stay ahead of these trends.
Yeah, well, I think, the other thing I wanna really, exploit as part of the podcast is this whole idea that, you know, if you have a stage of any kind that you can offer people, you can kinda punch above your weight. There's, like, people be surprised the kind of guests you can get, you know, even when you've just got 100 followers or whatever. People wanna, hey, it gives them an opportunity. It's footage for them or whatever. It's some clips that their team can show. I don't know. Maybe they can show they're benevolent, helping out the little guys. But more than that, you have this like easy way to kind of meet and talk to people that you wouldn't normally ever talk to, or you really be difficult, right? It'd be awkward to go on LinkedIn and be like, you want to get on a Zoom with me and just chat. It's it would just be weird, right? But, it's like, oh, it's different when you're reaching out and you're offering something, I guess. But, on that though, on the way that things are changing and the speed, right? Like it was, the computer age, and it's like the 70s and the 80s, and I think that was the beginning of things feeling like they were moving fast for people. I mean, well, probably the industrial revolution, but at least in my lifetime, and then the internet seemed to be almost another band, right? Because how quickly ideas can disseminate. But I feel like AI is almost warp speed. Just the amount, because I've been fascinated with it for a while. I kind of played around with OpenAI Playground when it was like ChatGPT 3 and Dolly and some of the stuff. And, it wasn't super impressive, but I was just intrigued. I've always been intrigued by the idea of AI. And then now that, we've had this it's sort of emergence, I think this crossover point where it's really capable of doing, crazy stuff, and it's kind of mind blowing. But it's like, I remember, like, me, I play around with the prompts, and I'm trying, I've been learning prompt engineering to see what I can get and create. And it's like the prompts of a month ago seem primitive. And now you get
Wow.
people are like, it's pages, like people are like feeding this thing, 2,000 words for a prompt that's gonna, I don't know,
Wow.
give you a prompt for Midjourney or something to make a AI art, right? It's getting so sophisticated so quickly, and it's because the tool itself helps you accelerate, right?
Mm.
At a different level, you can explore things so rapidly, and the AI itself can just answer things for you so rapidly and give you different concepts. And tying that back into, like, the idea of the marketing and business and commerce and everything that goes along with that, it's kind of like we were talking. I'm not sure anymore. You can working on your own brand if you want to be in business, if you want to be in entrepreneurship, if you want to be in anything like that. Even an independent contractor or a freelancer, because I'm not sure how else. It's so difficult to get noticed in the crowded marketplace, right? There's so much noise, there's so much technology, there's so many ways in which people are trying to communicate and get themselves in front of people, get their products in front of people, that the one tried and true thing is to really take the time and build a community of people who probably will be interested in whatever it is you build, right? And kind of give you that start at least. I don't think you need a billion followers for it to be relevant even. But is this the new website? Right? Remember when a website was novel, and then it just became an absolute, nobody starts a business and doesn't have a website anymore. You
Mhm.
have to have an online presence. Like, do you have to have a brand now? I've been really wrapping my head around this. I think you kind of do. Or certainly, let's put it this way. It is such a massive advantage. It doesn't make sense not to.
I got a bunch of reflections on that. Traditionally, over the years, it's been difficult to be a personal brand with multiple interests
Mhm.
because, unfortunately, as soon as you've got like three things that you like talking about, you limit the universe of people who equally like the same three things as you.
Hmm.
And so they're going to tune out of your content. Like if they want to learn how to do a YouTube podcast, they're going to go to the specialist
Mhm.
who only talks about YouTube podcasts, and they're going to subscribe to someone else if the other person is into like permaculture gardening. But to find one person that combines your interests to the extent that you want to listen to it, it's been difficult to do a personal brand in that sense. That is changing today because the algorithms are getting more sophisticated.
Mm.
So, your YouTube Shorts or your Instagram Reels or your TikToks can be visible to the people who are interested in the topics that you're talking about
Just a
per video.
topic. Right. Right.
Okay, so you can talk about 10 topics, and those 10 different topics will be seen by 10 different audiences. So we're
Hmm.
kind of getting to that cusp. Um, and so I've struggled with that for sure myself. Working with clients, advising clients, and my personal brand, which I've never really spent focused time on because of
Hmm.
that confusion. It's like
Hmm.
I personally am evolving as a person. I'm not the same 5 years ago or 2 years ago as I am today. So my interests change. So how would I maintain that consistency? And that's been a challenge if you're a multi-dimensional kind of
Hmm.
person. Um, but um, but
That's
it's
been a
been
big deterrent for me. I'll admit, like that's been a big deterrent. I think like I can't. There's nothing I could zero down on that much that that's all I'd want to talk about, right? But you make a good point about this thing because now I'm thinking about some of the people that I watch and I follow, and yeah, I watch certain videos of theirs, certain playlists, and I actually am not interested in half of the other ones. But I love those. I love what they do with those particular segments. You know, it's beautiful. So that makes sense. So that's good. See, I think that's good because should we be watching one person anyway? Like, how's that help us to grow and evolve and exchange ideas? And, yeah, I like that. Maybe the Web 2 is finally doing something decent for the world instead of just turning everybody into a social media data pool.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of being so that speaks to this data filtering and matching um, paradigm shift that's really happening. I've been learning stuff about, maybe we don't need to go down that rabbit hole too much, but vector databases, relatively new form of formatting data that allows machine learning correspondence at lightning speed to enable better filtering and matching. Just everything is changing right now.
Mhm.
Um, and it is going to enable a lot of automation that allows us to curate the kinds of content we like. So yeah, it's kind of like the analogy of lots of playlists on a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
You'll be able to tune into the topics you want. So I think it is giving more flexibility for people to have more multi-dimensional personal brands. And so I think we're both excited about feeling like it's a good time to start doing that today.
I agree. And in that sense too, it would be great to have that playlist and have it be 4 or 5 different people because if one of the things that's happened with the way these things have worked to date is it's been that magnification and that singular viewpoint that just gets fed to people over and over and over and over, right? They don't even hear somebody else's take, right? And so you it becomes very insular, and then we get this real polarization and this sort of all the stuff that everybody knows about and the politics and life where it's like either or. You're really into this or you're really against it, and the gray area is like lost or boring, right? No one cares. But I don't know, maybe this will be like a subtle way that'll bring that back. Like, yeah, it'll still be the topic that you're into, and it'll still probably be from somewhat the same viewpoint, but maybe you'll at least get a moderate version in there, and you might actually find out you like it. Oh my god. Like, it doesn't have to be, extreme for you to get off on it?
The other part of it is like I used to watch some lifestyle vloggers, and I
Mm,
also used to
fancy.
watch, yeah, I used to watch some productivity type vloggers as well. So you might know what bullet journaling is.
Mhm,
Started off with a paper journal with like the line like squares, and it uses the square on the left side of the piece of paper to do a little X or a dot or like a half of an X to signify that you started that particular task item. Really cool way. And then people got creative, and then it's very colorful. And there's just like there's YouTube channels just dedicated to bullet journaling,
mm,
and they have creative templates that it's on paper. And then, of course, you get the digital bullet journaling, and then you got templates that you like JPEGs that you can put into your digital bullet journal, and so that you can write over them. Um, the amount of so the lifestyle vloggers, they evolve. The point is that they evolve, and it's interesting to see their evolution. So if you're a brand, if you're someone who wants to get started on this kind of journey, you're a product. It doesn't matter where you're starting from,
mhm,
because you will be different in
mhm.
3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. The idea is to start having an authentic conversation with your audience, and really this is a challenge for each of us individually, but I know for sure it's a big challenge for a lot of companies. They think they need to be perfect first.
Yeah.
They think they need to develop the product, get the branding right, then start
Mhm,
doing some publicity, and they think that's going to bring attention. It doesn't work that way unless you got significant budget or you get lucky. Um, if you go back and look at how good podcasts start, we use podcasts as an analogy. But
Mhm.
any brand social media account, whatever, you go back and look at their early stuff, if they still publish,
It's pretty bad.
it's always horrible compared to the status that it is now.
Yeah, I mean, you hear me talk about Alex Hormozy a lot, and he's blown up in the last year or so. But his theory is like he says it takes you a year to just figure out what you really want to say. That's his take on it. He's like, I did this 3 times a week for 6 years before I got any traction. And I think that's the other part too. We do it and it feels so intense to start, and maybe we're nervous and we're all of these things, and we finally go, we put ourselves out there, and we publish it on YouTube, and you're really excited and you're going to get 2 views,
Yeah.
and it might be that way for a really long time. You have to enjoy the process of it for sure. Or if you don't pick a medium that you don't like doing the thing, right? Like, like I like talking to you, we talk all the time, so sure, get on a podcast. Gavin and I will have a chat. We like exploring new things, so it'll be fun to kind of learn about this and get better at it and figure out the subtleties and the nuances, and so forth, and get some other people involved. But like, I wouldn't do like I wouldn't run a TikTok. I just don't know anything about it, and I don't like super short stuff. I just wouldn't know. It wouldn't feel right. I wouldn't enjoy it. I wouldn't enjoy like doing like 100 takes of a video, right? Like that to me would just be mind numbing, frustrating to all hell.
Yeah, the part of the secret that for TikTok, because I've been studying up on a bunch of the channels of what's working today, what's not, and one of the tips of TikTok is that you have to have a lot of cuts and you have like a lot of
Mhm.
transitions, right? Less than 3 or 4 seconds, you need to be changing transition and
Oh,
just bring different elements. And the amount of editing that these guys, like they probably, the ones that are successful, they probably publish a couple of videos a day, and those videos might literally be the ideal video lengths apparently for TikTok is 15 seconds or 60 seconds. But the amount of time that probably goes into editing a lot of those 15-second videos is probably like a couple of hours.
right.
And I just wouldn't have the patience
Mhm.
or it's invest 2 hours to get a 15-second video. So
No,
yeah,
you
you're
have to love it, right? Like, so in that case, like if you're not really into video editing at all, or want to learn about it, or enjoy, like, I guess, the perfectionism of it and the experimentation of it, that's a terrible medium. Like, don't just do it because it's popular. Don't just do it because there's a billion. I get it. There's a lot of people there, and maybe even your perfect audience is there, but your perfect audience is somewhere else too. And if you're so much more comfortable writing and blogging, do that, because you'll be so much better at it. You'll be more likely to stay at it, which is the secret sauce, right? The secret sauce to building an audience is to keep going. Really, I mean, it's consistency, and it's doing it over and over and over again. And if you hate the actual process, or just really don't enjoy it, I don't know. I guess some people pull it off, but I think that by the end of it, no matter how much success you have, you'll probably be resentful at the least.
so um so there's a lot of channels that people have to cover. I think part of what makes things easier from a product development, marketing, publicity perspective, launch stuff, you know, is unfortunately a lot of it does come down to past experience.
Mm,
Um, because and in our conversations we can relate and get animated and passionate about the amount of errors and mistakes that startup founders make,
mm,
and how frustrating it is to watch companies that you might care about, that you might be contracted with, um, that you think has got amazing potential, and they just, from my perspective, so many of them shoot themselves in the foot.
mhm,
And and because they're not willing or able to see beyond their own bubble.
mhm.
So there's a balance. There has to be the commercial awareness to say, okay, I'm not going to be good at TikTok, for example, but my audience likes short form content. So then you got to think around it. You got to get past your own bias and say, what I'm going to do is make a medium article, like a blog with long form text content. You've really got to find a message to market match, a phrase
Mhm.
that I use fairly often. Um, so it's a tricky game. There's so much to consider, and things are only accelerating. That's the trouble of it today. So it's about having focus, having consistency, which you mentioned,
Mhm.
having relevance, and
Authenticity.
and
Authenticity.
authenticity.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And so these are all the rabbit holes that we can explore with examples and opinions and experiences.
Yeah, we've been around a little bit too, so it's good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Well, I think I gotta actually wrap it up.
Good.
This was
So
our first foray. I liked it. We got there.
debut inaugural episode 1.